Oh, ranking the US states. This is weird, because like, so for me, I haven't been to most US states. I've never really had the chance to travel much, but I know things about the states, but I've never really been to them. So it's like, I'm kind of rating them on the idea of what I think they're like. Do we want to start with Indiana? We could start with Indiana. I mean, I don't know a lot about Indiana, to be quite honest. To me, Indiana is a boring state. Like, what is Indiana even known for? Like the Colts, the Indianapolis Colts. Like, Indiana is like a pretty awful state. There's nothing there. It's like in the Midwest, right? The Midwest seems pretty boring. Indiana is just like, I'm not gonna give it an F because it's not like, I don't know enough about it to say that it's dog shit. But it just seems like a place I would never go. So I give it a D. Like, yeah, I guess it exists. Oh, right, the Indy 500, like all the car shit. Imagine like watching cars and being like, oh, this sport, that's great. I love watching the cars go around in a circle. That's so exciting. Hawaii, in my opinion, is one of the coolest states. Fuck it, Hawaii's rocks. Everything about Hawaii is cool. I would love to visit Hawaii one day. Cool culture there. They have volcanoes. I guess I wouldn't want to live there. I feel like it would be unsafe to live there. So I'm debating between an A and an S. I'm gonna give it an A just because I wouldn't want to live there. I think an S tier has to be like an amazing state that I would also want to live in. So none of them? Yeah, that's true. I don't know if anything's gonna get an S. California. There's a lot that I respect about California. I mean, it's a pretty progressive state in general. It's not like it's like actually extremely progressive, but it's more liberal than other states. Has its own personality. It has more of a personality than other states. Like, people there, like, they have a style. There's like a style to it. Like, environmentally, there's a lot of forest fires there. I wouldn't really want to live there. It's also extremely expensive. I think LA is kind of gross. Some of the culture there can be a little pretentious, maybe you could say. There's a lot of F's in the chat. I don't know what you guys have against California. I'm gonna give California a B, personally. It's an okay state. It needs work, but it's okay. I mean, it's the West Coast. I think the West Coast is nice. It's my third favorite West Coast state. And by that, I mean, it's like ranked 3 out of 3. Like, it's the worst out of the 3. Alaska? What the hell is Alaska known for? It's just cold. We like bought it. We bought it at some point. It's kind of new. People have oil. They get oil up there. I think like part of me is like, oh, I would kind of like living there in a way, because it would be so far away from everything. But it's also so cold and so weird. Just everybody up there is probably like insane. What do I think about Alaska? I think it has more spunk to it, you know? I would hang out with Alaska. I'd rather hang out with Alaska than any other, than most other states on here. I'll give it a B. Nothing bad about it for the most part. S for snow. Is this how you guys do tier lists? You just like you're just like, oh, S because, oh, Alaska's an A because it starts with an A. You're just like throwing shit at the wall. Georgia, C because, they have good clementines, and clementine starts with a C. Like, what? Okay, Alabama. For me, a lot of these like southern states, I just don't hold to a really, really high regard. Alabama has good college football. Is that correct? I think that's correct. I would really never want to visit Alabama in like any way. I think it's even more bad than more bad. It's worse than Indiana. It's D, I guess? Sweet home Alabama? I could almost put it in the F. It's like in that like damp, like gross category. But like, I also don't know anything particularly bad about it. I just know it's like the conservative, humid South, you know? Like, why would I would never go there. Yeah, I guess fuck it, F. Sure, yeah. You know what? I've been persuaded. I've been persuaded by chat's persistent berating. It's the incest state. Yeah, I mean, I don't know anything good about it, so there you go. I mean, I would almost say D for the football, though. What about D for the football? Arizona is okay. It's so dry and hot there. Like, Phoenix is not really that interesting of a city. It's kind of a gross city, in my opinion. I like, this is the C for me. I think it's like middle of the road. It's nowhere, it's not like a bad state. I think if there's interesting things to go there, you can see the Grand Canyon. That's kind of nice. For me, though, it's too hot and dry. I'd never want to live there. I think like in like 30 years, it'll be like uninhabitable. We'll see how that goes. Colorado, that's gotta be an S for me. I've never been to Colorado, but like if I had to move, I think anywhere, I would probably, like Colorado would be pretty high up there. It's like an inland state, which is kind of nice because like you don't have to deal with as many natural disasters, in addition to the fact that it's very like environmentally pretty, like beautiful mountains and forests and places to hike. The only thing keeping it down would be, I think it is pretty expensive to live there, especially if you want to live in a nice place. Delaware. Honestly, like the Northeast is okay. I don't really see it as like super progressive, but I do see it as like, it is liberal up there. Delaware is one of the ones that I'm not as interested in though. Like there's better states in that in that northeastern category. Like, I would rather live in Vermont. I would rather live in New York. I would rather live in Massachusetts. I might even rather live in Maine. I don't know. Like Delaware, like what? That's where Joe Biden's from? It's just like a bunch of old, rich liberals. There's just a bunch of old white people. I don't know, like a C. Connecticut, I mean, same thing, just a C. A lot of these northeastern ones to me are just gonna be very middle of the road. Florida is the easiest F in my life. This is probably my least favorite state in the entire country. Everything bad that you hear about always happens in Florida. It's like this disgusting, like, marsh swamp. Like, it's a bunch of people that are Shrek in human form, but not like the good parts of Shrek, like the bad parts of Shrek. You know, that's where the guy had bath salts and started eating people. There's alligators everywhere, which are cool. That's actually probably the coolest part. Or the crocodiles, whichever one, I don't know. Yeah, it's a tourist trap. Conservative politics, disgusting corporations, Disney. It's just like a bunch of gross things that I don't like. It's just, look at it, it looks like a gun, and I want to take that gun and shoot the state with it. I want to shoot it with it. I want to pick that up and just shoot it. I don't know, fuck this state. Georgia. Out of a lot of those states in that little area, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, Florida, Georgia's probably the one that interests me the most. Reason being, I think Atlanta is a pretty sick city. I think Atlanta seems pretty cool. Lots of good music there. Obviously, music has a long, rich history in Atlanta. I wouldn't want to live there, but I do want to visit Atlanta one day. No, Atlanta is not the undersea place. That's Atlantis. Maryland. Honestly, I don't mind Maryland. I think Baltimore is an interesting city. I wouldn't want to live there, but I think it's interesting. They have crabs there. I mean, it's in this photo, but I've heard they have good crab. I don't eat crab. Very close to Washington, D.C., so you could go to Washington, D.C. sometimes. This is like a C for me. Idaho is interesting. I researched Boise, Idaho, because, you know, I looked at a lot of states to move to, and I was like, where could I move? And I kind of checked out Idaho, and I was like, oh, it's like really cheap to live here. I wonder why. And it's because it's boring as fuck. That was really mean. I don't know, I'll give it a C. Yeah, potatoes? I don't know. Illinois has Chicago. Illinois is one of the more liberal states in the Midwest, from what I know. Chicago is an interesting city. One thing I think that is cool about Chicago is they have very good public transportation. So yeah, like a really good like car and transportation culture there. If there was anywhere I wanted to live in the Midwest, maybe Illinois would be up there, but it is also the Midwest. It's still the Midwest, and like that's the most boring part of the US almost. Give it a B. Arkansas. Literally, I know nothing about Arkansas. I actually cannot even tell you what I think of this. This is like the first state on this list where I don't even know. I give it a D because I actually don't even care. Does anybody know anything about Arkansas? Literally, like, is it even real? Somebody tell me something about Arkansas, like a fact about Arkansas. Do people actually live here, or is it like one of those like Truman Show scenarios where like it's just completely fake and made up? No one's actually like visited it to tell. Like we don't even know if people are there. We're just like kind of like, yeah, people are probably there. But then you like cross the border and it's just like an empty wasteland. Yeah, Iowa also honestly is gonna get a D from me. I knew somebody that lived in Iowa. It's like so boring. It's like so boring. I was like, what do? You like see corn. You just like look at corn. Like Iowa is like so important for politics, even though it literally means nothing. Like Iowa is like this most boring state. It should not have this much political power, but I guess it does for some fucking random reason. I don't know, go there and like eat some corn. Fucking boring. Kansas. It's also the name of a band. I don't know. Like, I also don't know much about Kansas. I don't know, D. It's like boring. I'm sorry if you live in Kansas. Kentucky, I mean, that's another one that's D. I mean, Kentucky sucks. Like, I associate all these states with just like bad country music. Like, that's just what I think. I'm just like, oh, bad country music. Why, Kentucky Derby? Like, guns? I don't know. Like, there's all this culture just doesn't, I don't care about it. Louisiana. So, I'm gonna give Louisiana a C. Just because I kind of respect like New Orleans in a way. I don't know, like I think it's kind of cool. Like there's like cool music there, like jazz. My favorite sports team are the New Orleans Saints who play there. And so like I think Louisiana is kind of sick. Maine is like kind of conservative. It's like one of those conservative northeastern states. But also I kind of just like it for some, this means nothing. I just kind of like it for no reason. I just think it's kind of cool. It's just like this weird like state up in like the way north, and it's pretty. Yeah, it's pretty. It has like cool trees. It's like basically a Canadian territory. I would love to visit it just to look around, but it's also, I wouldn't want to live there probably. I don't know. Massachusetts. There's some things I respect about Massachusetts. In a way, it's also like this really like super white, boring neoliberal state, but also It has really good education. You know, it's consistently highly educated. Boston is like a city that I would like to see, but you always hear bad things about Boston. I don't know. It's one of the more interesting states. It has like high education. I'll put it in B. I always hear terrible things about Boston traffic. That's what people always say. Michigan. I think I give it a C. I don't know. It's like, you know, there's obviously this like huge meme about Detroit. There are cool things about Michigan though. Like the White Stripes were founded in Detroit. There is some good music in Detroit. So that for me brings up to a C because all I care about is music. Minnesota, I think honestly, I want to give it like a B or an A. I might give it an A. Maybe this might be crazy, but I might give it an A. I really, really like the city of Minneapolis. I would consider living there. If I were going to live in the Midwest, I think I would pick Minnesota. Fargo takes place there. You know Fargo? Where hey, you go to Fargo, eh? You know, they talk like that. They talk like that in Fargo. I liked that movie. Mississippi, D. This is the one state that they fucking yell at you for in third grade geography class over and over. M-I-S-S-I-S-S-I-P-P-I. And you have to hear that every fucking day. You're like, I already get it. I know how to spell it. And they just M-I-S-S-I. And every kid is like, when they're spelling it out, they say it out loud. And they go M-I-S-S-I-S-S-I-P-P-I. And they just say it over again. You're like, shut up. Nobody cares about your dumb state. Maybe just spell it normally. Fuck you, Mississippi. Montana, huh? Okay, Montana's a weird one because I think Montana's probably pretty beautiful. I would love to visit Montana. And in a way, I kind of like the isolationist society that seems to exist in Montana. Once somebody goes to Montana, they basically don't exist anymore. You say, okay, I'm going to Montana, and you say, okay, bye, I'll never see you again. It's like just like you're going into the Bermuda Triangle. Like they just, goodbye. Bye. No, have you ever talked to anybody from Montana? No, because they don't exist anymore. They just pass into a bubble and they go into another plane. They are cryptids. This is where all the SCPs live. I'm debating giving it a B because it's so funny. If we like all moved to Montana, we could start a good society there. Just right now, there's like nobody there. Like we've only hear from like 3 people there. It basically doesn't exist. I don't know, I give it a B. Nebraska is a weird state. I know nothing about it. It's like the thing that touches Texas. And that's dumb. So D. Nevada. Okay. Nevada to me is just kind of like this arid wasteland, and Las Vegas does not interest me in any way whatsoever. A lot of people are like, oh, I want to go to Las Vegas and gamble. I'm like, I'd rather not. It's just like go there and like spend money and don't win anything. Okay, sounds like a terrible afternoon. I don't know. Nevada has Germa. Germa lives in Nevada. Okay, that brings it up for me. I'll give it a D. I just don't really care about it. All right, New Hampshire, really boring. Don't even like New Hampshire. Didn't even know there was an old one, to be honest. All right, New Jersey is awful. Fuck New Jersey. Fuck New Jersey, man. What's that Jersey Shore? Jersey Shore, Jersey Shore ruined America. And you never hear anything good about it. And what's that guy that, what was it, Chris Christie was the governor of New Jersey? That guy's a joke. F. New Mexico. I like New Mexico. I only ever heard one thing about New Mexico. My dentist was from New Mexico, and she was talking to me about it. And she was like, yeah, everybody there drives really well compared to here. And I was like, oh, that's nice. Breaking Bad does take place in New Mexico, so I give it a C. New York. Fuck it, I'll move up Arizona there, okay? You happy? I moved up Arizona, you happy? I'm walking here, I'm eating here. Hey! I actually respect New York City. Maybe I'm crazy, but I would maybe want to live in New York City if it wasn't so expensive. No, I give it an A. I give New York an A. There are other states I like better, but it's up there. And New York City is cool. North Carolina? I always hear terrible things about North Carolina. Isn't that like where the right-wing people like had to mow down protesters in a car or something? I don't know. D. North Dakota doesn't exist. That's a fake state made up by the deep state. That doesn't exist. North Dakota doesn't exist, and neither does South Dakota. In my mind, those are states that are just made up by their government. They don't exist, so they get a D. Ohio is easily an F. Every time you ever hear about a shitty person, you look up their Wikipedia page and it says they were born in Ohio. Ohio is like a desolate gray wasteland where people like go to die. It basically is already Fallout New Vegas. Everyone there is a ghoul and a skeleton. It's just a gross state that I would never want to go to or live in or even pass through. I feel like you will contract an STD if you even just walk into the border. I'm sorry, nothing good comes out of Ohio, and when you go into it, you die. Okay, Oklahoma. Oklahoma is the hat. It also looks like a pot or a pan. Some people would say a pan. This is Texas's hat, and that's stupid, so that's a D. Oregon is an S. If I had an opportunity Someone was like, hey, want to live in Oregon? I would be like, yes, immediately. Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania is kind of like Ohio too. It's so shitty there. I don't know. It's like a D. Rhode Island is so small that I could run a lap around it. What is Rhode Island known for? Family Guy? Yeah, again, it's just a bunch of rich white people. I don't know. Like, if I'm saying some bad, ignorant things about your state, just know that I know nothing about it. I don't know, like a C. South Carolina. Is that better than North Carolina? It's boring. D. Missouri, boring. Well, okay, there is St. Louis. I've heard good things about St. Louis. Tennessee, ugh, Tennessee. God. Kentucky too, it's the sequel to Kentucky. You're the only 10 I see, more like a 0 out of 10. Twinkies? Racing? It's boring. Texas. Texas is a good meme right now. Texas fucking sucks, dude. I'm sorry, Texas sucks ass. The only good thing about Texas is Austin. I've heard Austin is like a beautiful city. They have a lot of culture there, a lot of good food. In my mind, I would rather go to Texas than Florida, and New Jersey and Ohio. So maybe it's like a D. Utah. If you spell it backwards, it says Hatu, and I don't really know what that means. Hatu? Utah. Oh no, now I'm remembering Utah. Utah is where all the Mormons are. I don't know, Utah sucks. Vermont, that gets a B just because of Bernie Sanders. Otherwise, I know nothing about it. Virginia is like okay, like it's by Washington DC. I don't know, I don't know much about Virginia. I think there's good music in Virginia. Like there's good like punk music in Virginia. I'll give it like a C. Washington gets an S. West Virginia, that's an F. This state had the balls to just leave regular Virginia, and then they just ruined everything. They just made it such worse Virginia. I actually feel bad for West Virginia because all the people that live there have been like manipulated in a way. They have cool mountains or something. Wisconsin, what is Wisconsin even? Does Wisconsin exist? I don't know much about Wisconsin. I think they like cheese up there. A boring state, like a C. I literally know nothing about it. It's the most boring state. Wyoming. That state also does not exist. Does Wyoming exist? Wyoming has a buffalo on its flag, and that's pretty sick, so I give it a C. That's my state tier list. Nothing about this is wrong. It's just objectively true, and if you live in one of the F states, you should feel bad.